an enemy. You know, you can say that the Nazis came to power as a result of a beginning of a democratic process as well. When you elect Haider in Austria, everyone has the ability to boycott the Austrian government until the Haider government falls. Democracy does not, ipso facto bestow legitimacy or rule out enmity or belligerence. The question of Edward Luttwak's article, which, if you haven't read it, I strongly recommend you do. It's one of the more influential articles written, I guess, 10, 15 years ago. It's called Give War a Chance. And his thesis is that wars in the post-World War II world are not allowed to be concluded to their ends. And so usually someone comes in and imposes a ceasefire. And so the causes of the war are never fully addressed, and that simply sets the stage for the next war, which is usually larger and more destructive. It's a very cogent, sort of very provocative argument. I would say that was certainly the case in Lebanon in 2006. War was not given a chance. We were not allowed to do what we had to do in Lebanon, not just to the fault of the international community, much from the fault of Israeli decision-making also. The war was appallingly led. But in this case, it doesn't apply. Here, I would say that Luttwak's thesis of not having war a chance did not apply because, again, I want to reiterate what I said at the end of my talk. To go into Gaza, to uproot Hamas, and if you go onto the front pages of Haaretz paper today, you'll see that one of the major generals of the Southern Command said, we've lost a historic opportunity. We should have gone in there and uprooted them. And it's a very cogent argument. But the fact of the matter is, if we had gone in there, we would have killed X number of thousands of Palestinians more, which would have deeply scarred our soldiers. And these are 18, 19-year-old kids like so many of yourselves. And if we had gone into doing that, at the end of the day, to whom would we have given the keys to Gaza? We didn't have an end game. So it wasn't, I think we stopped the war, this crisis, when we had to. And there was a victory achieved, but it doesn't look like the victory that Edward Luttwak maybe would call a victory. Mm-hmm.
My name is Benton Arnovitz. If, as you suggest, you are willing to have perhaps 200,000 Jews removed from the West Bank, from Judea and Samaria, though some might call it, as a price for peace, though some might call it making that area Judenrein, would you also support the analogous proposition that the Arab population inside the Green Line then should be transferred beyond the Green Line, and if not, why not?
I would not. Because one thing, it'd be one thing if the Arab population of say, the Triangle in Galilee wanted to be part of the Palestinian state. As far as I know, though they are not particularly enamored of the Jewish state, they do not want to be part of the West Bank Palestinian state. And that transfer would have to be, forcefully. We are not, the confusion you're making is assuming that we're willing to remove 100,000 people solely for the purpose of peace. Now, we're willing to try to convince 100,000 people to leave or to get them to leave, to physically relocate them in order to preserve ourselves as a Jewish state. You don't do it first and foremost for peace, because I'm not a tremendous believer that peace is around the corner. You do it because this is what we have to do to survive. It's an existential issue for the Jewish state. It's not a peace option. Now, were it to be a peace option, if all of my premises prove to be false and tomorrow a Palestinian leadership arises which is capable and willing of signing on the dotted line that says that this is the end of conflict, there is no Palestinian refugee return, we recognize Israel as a permanent, legitimate Jewish state, and we're willing to work together with the Arab world to resettle Palestinian refugees and end the conflict, then that would be a different story. If that happens, then we would address the question. But right now, the issue is, how do we survive as this Jewish state? And I personally do not believe that we can survive and maintain all of those settlements under the Palestinian population. That'll be given whatever, I know there are different rates of statistics for this, but even if you take the most sanguine estimates about population rates among Palestinian Arabs and Israeli Jews, within the next 20, 30 years between the Mediterranean and the Jordan, you will have parity. And with parity, you can't have a Jewish state. That's existential. Thanks.
This concludes our evening. Thank you all for coming, and please join me again in thanking Michael Oren for an extraordinary talk.